Hello, thanks for dropping by. My name is Richard and my website is ShoshinGuitarist.com. That's SHOSHIN guitarist.com. Perhaps like you, I'm an advanced beginner guitarist, and today we're talking about Crate CA series amps, and you're looking at the one I bought for $50 on Facebook. I'd like to get to the punchline on this real quick. Let's just say that if you're buying these old St. Louis Crate amps and you'd like to play them on your acoustic guitar or play them acoustically and also sing with them, there is bad news and good news. I'll give you that bad news and good news right up front. The bad news is that when you play it over the years, what's happened is that reverb causes white noise on these amps. Their digital signal processing chips are going bad. My amp, this amp, is 27 years old. So the bad news is if you buy one of these, most likely your reverb effects, if you see my hand over here, the reverb effects, plate and spring and all this other stuff are going bad. You will get white noise. The good news is if you live with it, if you figure it out, it's not a bad amp. I've played this in my 2.5 car garage with a buddy playing harmonica and singing, and it was awesome. So let's get to some of the details. These amps, made in St. Louis around the turn of the century, maybe from about 1995 onward. They stopped around 2005, but they made average Crate electric amps, but they made great acoustic amps. So let's talk about it. I think you're probably buying a Crate amp yourself. So let's look over here at something that's really important. How do you tell if you're buying one of the bad Crate CA series amps? Again, this is a Crate CA60D. You can see that in the upper corner over there. So how do you know if these things are bad? So I think the first telltale remark is that it says D for digital. So if you actually look at one of these Crate CA series amps and it says D for digital, you know you're heading down a tough road, because most likely the DSP, the reverb effects, are not going to work. And I'll show you how to diagnose that further. There's another thing. Sometimes in the marketing of these, they made various amps. They made the Cimarron series and the Durango and the Gunnison and the Telluride. The Gunnison were the flagship amps, and they were, 120 watts, maybe 125. The Telluride, you'll find one or two YouTube videos on them, and they're terrific. Problem is, no one ever demonstrates whether the effects are good or not. So the second thing, how do you know if you have a bad amp? One way of indicating or finding that out, aside from the D over here, which is a problem, is you look over on this side. If you see that you've got a variety of choices, you can see I've got reverb mode right here. It has a lot of choices that I can make. Can I make that bigger? A little bit. Yeah. You can see that for reverb mode, there's a lot of different choices that you can make. This is the difficulty, is that you bought an amp, a Crate amp that's 25, 35, 40 years old that has reverb mode and the DSP. You can see underneath it where it says DSP. The DSP chips are going bad. So you're probably wondering, how can I prove that? So you might want to buy an amp and think, oh, this amp is, the amp may work. So mine's already turned on, which you may not notice. Some more stuff to show you. Can you see this? Let's expand this. Production is so hard for these things. I'm sorry. I'm doing my best. Do you see this amp? It's kind of like mine. If you have an amp, a Crate CA series amp that has all these different modes that I marked in red over there, if your amp, whether it's a 10, a 15, a 30, a 60, a 120, if it has all these different reverb choices, it's going bad. What are you hoping for? Well, my amp is a Crate CA60D, but I also found one, there's just a plain old Crate CA amp, and you see how it's different? There's no, and for master, there's no bunches of reverb choices. All there is reverb return. So it's just one reverb. It's not, 4, 5, 6, 10 different reverb effects. So if you find just a plain old-fashioned Crate CA amp that is not digital, then you probably will be more pleased with your reverb effects. But returning to how do we diagnose this thing, I've told you that there's two concerns. One is that you've got a D series here, and also that over here you can see visually that you have all these different reverb modes. So that's a concern right there. But you might be telling yourself, okay, this thing's actually, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. You can see my power is on, and most of my dials are straight up. They're all pretty much at noon, except for gain. I've turned gain down on all this stuff. So the gain on this, this is for guitar and also singing for microphone. The gain's already down. It's at 0. The gain for vocal over here is 0. So let's see if I can generate this white noise for you. Hope I can. Having a little trouble with this. Hopefully you'll tolerate that. So what I'm going to do is, you can see in this area that this is a key part. Master is not on. Now I'm turning on master volume. I'm actually turning it on to 3 o'clock. Perhaps you can hear it. I hope so. So what happens if we start dialing in some reverb volume or reverb return? So it's at 0. It's at 3. Now it's at noon, straight up. Hopefully you can hear that white noise. Now reverb return is at 3. Now it's maxed out. Now I can't explain really in great detail what reverb return is, but I believe it has to do with how the reverb signal, whatever you've chosen, mixes into volume. And you can see that, or hear, that reverb return has the white noise syndrome. Let's back it off to noon. You have less. Let's back it even further, maybe at 10 o'clock. You have less. But in my experience with this amp, jamming with a friend yesterday in a 2.5 car garage, sounded great, but when I had reverb, I had reverb up, and I was trying different effects, couldn't hear them, garbled, not good, chorus wasn't good either. Let me show you chorus. Master is still at 3 o'clock. Let's turn on chorus. Chorus is a button over here. Can you see it? No. Chorus is over here. I know, I'm imperfect, doing my best. There's chorus. See it right over there? So chorus is there. Let's see what happens when I push it in. It became a bit noisier. So getting back to the bad, what's bad about these Crate CA amps? If you hope of using, there are many effects, and see the effects, they're all here. If you plan on using master effects, so this is the rev mode, all these different reverberation modes. If you plan on using them, and you want to add more reverb return, you get white noise. Again, lots of white noise. And you will get that white noise also in your, when you play, when you're doing reverb. So what's the good news? The good news, and I know you're dying to hear this, now I'll do another video on that. You're dying to hear what this thing sounds like. The good news is that if you learn this problem that it has, now I'm going to turn up gain. I'll put, this is where as I played it yesterday, this is what I did. I put gain maybe at about 10. Maybe a bit less, and low and mid and high I turned on high. Well, this is based on the internet. I turned it to 0 because the belief is that if you have a Crate CA series amp that has the white noise because of a faulty DSP for reverb, if you turn high down, the high amplifies apparently the high sound of this defective chip or this chip that's going bad. So again, gain at 10 o'clock, low mids at 12 o'clock, high all the way down. Frequency and cut are not part of this equation. Reverb and effects, send. I'm not doing reverb, so that really doesn't matter. I can turn that all the way down. Here I make sure the chorus is off. I don't want any of that white noise coming in. And let's see, the other part is I'll put gain up to maybe this part, about 10 o'clock. That's for vocal. So vocal, going over here. Let's see. There you see. So I turned, for vocal, I turned gain at about 10 o'clock. And low is straight up. High, I've turned high all the way down. So high is all the way down because that might amplify a high frequency. And again, for playing cleanly, it doesn't matter where this is at, as long as reverb return. Can you see reverb return? As long as reverb return is all the way down, you are Xing out or zeroing out any reverb. And then, this is fine. So yesterday in the garage, 2.5 car garage, I had the master level really low. I mean, it was like down to here. It was maybe at 9 o'clock, really low. And also I had the gains were set at about 10 o'clock here and 10 o'clock here. And with volume at 1/3, this thing blasted away. I mean, this thing was fun. You know, I was able to connect the microphone with a buddy. I was playing an Ibanez V70 CE acoustic electric, playing some old folk songs, and he was singing along. He played harmonica. This thing was awesome. So the good news about these crates, the good news is that if you recognize that your D is about to fail, your digital crate is about to fail, you know, just all you have to do is turn reverb down, reverb return right here, going back in, turn reverb down, reverb return, turned all the way down, and then it doesn't really matter what you do for the master because it'll be fine. So moving this over a little bit. That's it. So enjoy the bad and the good about this. I have no doubt that in the year 1999 when this was made, that it could just play wonderfully for singing and for busking and reverb, because even now it's awesome. And a bit more good news on this is that if you put a pedal in front of it, and I put a zoom pedal in front of it, I put this cheap zoom pedal in front of it. It's a Zoom Z1ON that, I don't know, was made maybe, 10, 15 years ago. I always keep it around. It's really for electric guitar, but I put this at the front end going into here, into input, and it sounded wonderful. It really did. A friend who has better ears said that it sounded more electronic and not acoustic, but I can live with that. So, once again, these Crate amps can be bad if you don't realize what's happening, or they can be good. And you know, to make it even better, today I purchased a used Sonicake sonic wood pedal, because this pedal is not quite good enough for it. So I'm getting a sonic wood pedal, and that's it. I think it'll be just fine. So 14 minutes, I try to keep my word that the first 3 minutes you knew that there's bad news and good news about it. The bad news is that the digital ones, you know, will fail, but you can work around that stuff. And the good news is you still have a great amp that is good except for the DSP. So you control what comes in on the end, and you can add effects to it or just play it cleanly, and it's awesome. So one of my longer videos, but this is a new technique I'm using, is that I give you the straight up stuff in the first 3 minutes, and then I expand further on. If you hang with me, then you've learned more. So thank you so much for dropping by. My name is Richard Kraneis, Kraneis, and my guitar website is www.shoshin, Shoshin, guitarist.com. I have other websites if you look up my name on the internet. So, but today we're doing guitar stuff. Thank you so much for dropping by. And you know what? I'll test this once I record it, maybe in my garage, but it was awesome. So best wishes, and if you're looking to buy a Crate CA series amp, you test this, you might get a discount because you're telling the seller the digital doesn't work. And even if it doesn't work, you still have a great amp if you know how to deal with it. Have a great day. Thank you so much for dropping by.